Africa, the second largest continent, lies astride the equator, characterized by cultural diversity with magnificent flora and fauna. It is rich in natural resources, though with high poverty levels. About 41% of the population lives below the UN poverty line of $1 per day. According to the Department of International Development 2008 report on reducing poverty in Africa, only 1/3 of primary school-age children attend school, while 20% of the children die before the age of 5 years. The situation in Africa was worsened 3 decades ago when the continent and the whole world were plunged into an era of perplexity and despair by a simple living creature which defied all solutions from medical science. The human immunodeficiency virus had struck, and the human race was facing extinction. Although the origin of the AIDS virus is still unknown, Africa is the most affected continent. Out of the estimated 33 million people living with AIDS, more than 20 million live in sub-Saharan Africa. The effects of the scourge are experienced at all levels of society. Poverty has increased, the number of orphans and widows escalated, causing social and economic instability. The impact of the pandemic has equally gripped the church, confronting it with unprecedented reality of sickness and death as part and parcel of its ministry. There have been continued calls from governments and development agencies to the church to use its unique credibility and influence to champion a quality and comprehensive response to the grassroots level through its network.
And for the first time I realized actually I didn't have a plan on how I was going to handle the HIV. But I remember telling him, "Counselor, I don't know what I'm going to do, but the God who created me will give me guidance."
Although the church has helped pioneer many excellent care, education, counseling and treatment programs, most individual churches, Christian organizations and networks lack institutional capacity and competence to manage HIV/AIDS interventions. There is an urgent need for capacity building, resource mobilization and networking among churches and Christian organizations. Pan-African Christian AIDS Network, PACANET, is a continental movement coordinating and equipping churches in Africa to fight the HIV/AIDS pandemic. It was founded in 2002 during a conference in Botswana attended by over 100 people representing different churches and Christian organizations in Africa. The secretariat is currently situated in Kampala, Uganda.
I think it's important to note that the church did not begin to respond in 2002. In fact, it is a stage in the process of the church responding to HIV/AIDS that brings about the formation of PACANET. But previously, like in the early 80s when we started to hear about HIV/AIDS, the church, like scientists, like researchers, was equally taken unawares. So the church responded with frustration, with shock, and they had to do something. Whether what the church did at the time was acceptable is another issue, but the church responded in the best way it could, and in responding with the best way it could, use the weapon it had, and that was the scripture.
At the time when we started working with the Lutheran Church in Liberia, they had just passed a resolution at their convention that they wanted to begin intervention in HIV and AIDS. But how to start, where to go, what key issues, which intervention areas should be prioritized, they did not know at the time. So they wanted the expertise of PACANET to help with the program development. So PACANET went in along with the Danish Mission Council. Today, the Lutheran Church in Liberia has one of the biggest intervention in HIV and AIDS. In our work with capacity building, the skills were transferred to them. The Lutheran Church in Liberia is looked at at a national level for the training of HIV and AIDS counselors. Those were initiatives that were undertaken by PACANET. The Lutheran Church in Liberia is also seen as a champion in VCT establishment and management. Those were initiatives that they were mentored into by PACANET.
PACANET's vision is to have an AIDS-free Africa where the impact has been mitigated. Its mission is to link churches, Christian organizations and networks to enhance their AIDS responses by sharing resources, ideas, skills, experiences, and stimulating strategic partnerships.
And it is our goal to reach every congregation. And that would include every Christian denomination. And so we think that if we equip the leaders of the various churches well, and equip the pastors, equip the leaders of the Christians in the various congregations, the fight against HIV will be quite effective.
And I'm working with PACANET since March 2006 as a project officer for French-speaking countries. And mainly we have activities in Burkina Faso and in Madagascar. But not only that, we are also giving some support to some partners in other French-speaking countries. Namely, we have Benin, we have Mali, we have also Burkina Faso once again in a different branch. So we are mainly in those countries.
PACANET works strategically to link development partners to the grassroots churches and Christian organizations which are doing HIV/AIDS work. Country Christian AIDS networks are formed in individual countries to galvanize the efforts of churches and grassroots Christian organizations in the fight against the scourge.
CCANet in full is the Country Christian AIDS Network. And what it means is it's a network to bring together Christians from all the different church denominations. And the purpose is to get people together to have a coordinated response against HIV and AIDS. And the major step for us initially was to get ourselves familiar with one another. Because even among ourselves, we've had questions, who is a Christian and who is not? Can the Pentecostal work with the Anglican? Can the Anglican work with the Catholic? Is it right to work with the SDAs? And one of the things that was the factor to push us was, right now we have an animal in our midst, and we as Christians have the mandate, at least we believe in the same Bible. Can we come together and address the issues of HIV and AIDS? And so that's how the Country Christian AIDS Network was formed.
It's been a learning experience which has been very instrumental in breaking down the prejudices that existed between the groups, but also taught people how they can work together on technical aspects without necessarily contradicting or conflicting over aspects of theology. That has been very good. Other places we've had challenges where it's been a lot longer to even get people to come and sit at the same table. A case in point would be like Burkina Faso. There have been some challenges there. We feel, however, we're getting to a situation where that process can start rolling on smoothly. What have we learned from this? That the CCA nets, that's the Christian country networks, are a good method to go.
PACANET was given a four-dimension mandate. Number one was to research for information about what the church is doing, including the gaps and the strength, share that information amongst the faith-based groups within the churches, and also with our interested development partners. Mandate number two was to build or to strengthen the capacity of those who are already participating, which we call the capacity building mandate. Mandate number three was about advocacy, that there are many issues the church is best placed to handle, to deal with, utilizing the prophetic voice of the church. Then mandate number four was on resource mobilization. It was noted, and it continues to be, that church programs, church interventions, particularly with HIV/AIDS, are so badly resourced.
In spite of major challenges like uniting different churches and organizations, mobilizing resources, and dealing with sensitive issues related to HIV/AIDS, PACANET has made remarkable achievements in mobilizing and equipping churches and church organizations to fight HIV/AIDS pandemic. Strategic partners have played an invaluable role of funding the programs. They include Danish Mission Council Development Department, Swedish International Development Agency, Erik Schalpen, and Danish International Development Agency.
Personally, from the Pentecostal background, I had a different view about people who are HIV positive, because at least we knew, or I knew, that it was a punishment from God. They are getting what they deserve, which was quite different from Christine and Edward. And the time I came to understand is when we were called to action, conference, call to action. And that's the time I changed my attitude towards people who are HIV positive and AIDS as a challenge, because now I came to understand that it's not only, the problem is not only for those who are infected. I knew that this is a war that has come up and we have to join hands.
PACANET's work is bearing good fruits. It's actually benefiting the people. It's relevant to the people, and it is also contributing. There are signs which show that it's actually contributing to enabling the Christian organizations in these countries to be able to scale up their work, to be able to do their work effectively.
PACANET looks forward to the full galvanization of efforts of grassroots Christian movement to take on the surmountable challenges presented by the AIDS pandemic in Africa. When the movement is well equipped and core competences enhanced, the church shall fulfill its biblical mandate of emulating Christ's compassion in a holistic ministry, and the scourge of AIDS shall be dealt a decisive blow.
I'd want to see a PACANET that has a voice on the continent, that has galvanized and spent a lot of time building the capacity of local networks, not just Christian country networks, because those could be limited.
The vision was an HIV/AIDS-free Africa. One day, we are positive and trust that one day Africa will be HIV/AIDS-free. The impact will be mitigated, and people will live a happy and fulfilled life again.